So today we're going to go over 3 reasons why social media is like porn for women. Now, when I make these videos, I'm speaking generally. So I'm not saying everybody, okay? There are women who get affected by porn and there are men who get affected by social media. But I think in general, it's usually the guys watching the porn and the women who get sucked into the social media. So I kind of want to go over 3 things where everybody, people have no problem telling men, don't watch porn, don't do porn. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. And they don't necessarily disagree. But the flip side to that is social media is kind of turned into porn for women. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. So the first way that social media is like pornography for women is through false negative self-perceptions and perceptions of others. Now, when a man watches porn, there's a couple of things that's likely to happen, but most likely he's going to look at the women and be, wait, hey, how come you don't look like that? How come? I mean, those are bigger. That's nicer. That's bigger. That's smaller. Everything looks much more in proportion. The filters are doing a great job of making sure that the woman appears to be completely speckless. And guys will get a false sense of perception about how their women should look. Now, in terms of what goes on social media for a woman, well, it goes the reverse angle, okay? Number one, you see a lot of, let's just say, altered photos getting posted. And for women, what the difference is men will watch porn and look at the women on the screen and compare them to the women in their life and say, how come you can't look like that? Women, it's much worse for actually women what happens on social media, because they see the woman on the screen and they think, why can't I look like that? Why don't I look like that? And it can lead to depression. It can lead to body and self-image issues, and that puts the man at a serious disadvantage, because I've seen it happen where a woman will stop taking compliments from their man because they feel bad about how they look, or they will think that the compliments their man is giving them are disingenuous because maybe she saw something on Facebook or Twitter or social media somewhere and she sees a clearly manipulated photograph. And what's interesting is that men will discount the photographs that have been through filters and manipulated and everything like that, where women will actually, I've seen women take that, they know it's fake. I'm not saying that women consider that to be reality, but they will still make it they will log it away in the back of their brain as a goal, as I wish I can look like that. Well, the person in the photo doesn't really look like that at all. So it creates a false negative self-perception for these women. Whereas for men, when we're watching porn, the men tend to look at the women in pornography and think, well, how come my woman can't look like that? Now, some men might get to feeling some body shame in terms of size or structure, in terms of if a man is watching another man in porn and go, man, I am not jacked like that, right? That can't happen. But moreover, it's usually the men comparing the women in the video to the women in their life. Whereas for the women, it's worse. When they see a manipulated photo on social media, many times they will compare that filterized photo to what they actually look like. And it can cause a lot of problems, because then the man is at a complete disadvantage, because now the woman's self-confidence is on the downslide. It really doesn't have anything to do with how the man is handling them. And you probably hear my St. Bernard snoring. So let's get to the second thing. Now, the second way that social media can be like porn for women is the why can't I have that? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when a man watches pornography, he will see, not just the body image that we talked about, but actions, okay? Things that the women are doing in the video for money, okay? He will look at his one and say, hey, What about that? What about this? How about we try that? Right? So it's a little bit unrealistic. Well, what social media does to women is a couple of things, and sometimes it's almost a circle that completes itself. Now, when I was a massage therapist and I've been a life coach, I can tell you one thing, and what I can tell you is that 90% of what women post on Facebook is baloney. It's not true. They will come to the coach or they will come to the session and they will tell you everything that's going on in their life. And then when you look at their Facebook, none of it is nothing like what you know is really going on. So what does that do? Now, in retrospect, a woman might be posting these types of things because that's what she wants her life to be, which is just nothing necessarily wrong with that. The problem is other men see what she's posting and think, how come my house can't look like that? How come my husband can't do those things for me? How come my kids don't act like that? How come I can't have that? When that they're looking at, I can guarantee you almost always is either fake or it has been sort of like the pictures get the filters and they're manipulated. Women have a tend to put a positive spin on things or a spin that doesn't even really exist in terms of how good things are at home and how their spouse is doing and what their kids are doing. Now, the flip side of that is sometimes there's this thing called partner shaming. I fell down that rabbit hole a couple days ago, where apparently women, this is mainly on TikTok, will go to TikTok and make videos that exacerbate and exaggerate some possibly negative thing that their husband did. That's a completely different scenario, but that also will create a false perception in a woman's mind at times because she can go online and spin a story the way it didn't really happen. Okay. And she will get reinforcement from her girlfriends. You should leave him. That's not right. You know, he shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't be saying that. He shouldn't be treating you that way. Your kids are in the wrong. Your husband is in the wrong. And the reality of the situation is what she posted, not exactly accurate. There's missing context. There's sentences that are taken out. There are words that have been eliminated that would make it go, oh, wait, that's what he was saying. That's what that person was doing. So in many ways, it's a self-perpetuating circle because a lot of times what women post as their life is not accurate. And then other women look at their life and say, how come I can't have that? And in reality, nobody has that. Now, the third thing is the most basic human, it's the most basic human nature thing there is, and that's attention replacement. Now, what's interesting here is there's somewhat of a double standard here in the guy's favor. You will hear in a lot of places, not here, but you will hear it where if the advice a man will get, if your woman's not sexually satisfying you and you don't want to cheat, just take care of it yourself, right? Just rub one out yourself, take care of it yourself. Now, while in emergency situations, that's not the worst advice in the world, it is still an attention replacement. It's still not something that is liable to solve the problem of you feeling sexually dissatisfied with your partner. Neither is infidelity, by the way. That it never works out the way you think. It's a flash in the pan. You get about 5 minutes of excitement, and then what you get after that is guilt and questioning because you're just throwing everything up into the air. Now, for a woman, and I've been told this by women, okay, they will just flat up admit, and in fact, this has happened in my life, it's happened in others. If the conversation isn't stimulating enough, and even if it's just you, a woman and her partner and her male partner there just at night talking and chit-chatting and going back and forth, if the conversation is not stimulating enough or she feels she's just not quite getting the right attention, just in the middle of the conversation, we'll just pick up our phone and what, and then that's going to bring on a couple of different, more than a couple, but it brings on a few things. Number one, the man feels devalued. Let's just start there. Okay. Number two, it can lead to arguments because the man might be in the middle of making a point and saying something, and she feels like it's not all that important. And then later on, whether it's that day or 2 weeks later, they're going to have an argument because he's going to say, "We had a conversation about this. I talked to you about this. We already talked about this." And I don't remember. I must not have been paying attention. Yeah, because she grabbed your phone. Now, I've literally been in situations where, for me personally, that has happened where I've been in the middle of a back and forth with somebody and they just picked up their phone right in the middle of the conversation because they did not feel the conversation was stimulating enough. And this is, in my view, the biggest correlation and the biggest thing. Some men, okay, they don't think anything of it. If the woman don't look exactly the way they want her to look, or she's not providing the exact method of sexual satisfaction that they want, they will just completely disengage and go to porn and turn to porn. Okay. Well, women are doing the same thing with social media. If they feel like the level of conversation is not stimulating enough, or that the man is not really reacting to their stories and their conversation in an animated enough way that they feel they're getting enough attention and enough accolades, the woman is going to immediately pick up her phone and turn to social media. Now, again, I'm speaking generally. I'm not saying every single person does this, but in general, in terms of the guys that I've talked to, they all shake their head and put their eyes real big and go, "Yep, it's happened to me. Yep, it's happened to me." So the same thing is now true in reverse, where women have been, or every woman is going to have a story about, "Yep, he started watching porn," or "Yep, he cheated on me." So I can totally empathize and sympathize with that. But now on the back end of that, what's happened is social media is making it so that if the man is not a circus clown at all times, if the man is not constantly stimulating her imagination, her sense of being interacted with, she'll just pick up that phone and get that attention elsewhere. So what can you do? Well, there's two different scenarios. If you are in the market for a new relationship and you're looking for somebody, be mindful, be wary of what happens during those gaps of conversation. You know you're with somebody that you can function with when you can be having a back and forth, and there can be a 10, a 20, maybe even a 30-second silence between the two of you where you both think about and process what was said, and then think about what that might lead to next in the conversation before somebody starts speaking again. That is normal human conversation. What is not normal, well, what has become normal, which should not become the normal, is a woman and a man are speaking back and forth. And men will do this too, but it's been my experience that it's the majority of women, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The man has the last word. And if he doesn't speak again soon enough, she's picking up her phone. So if you're in the market for a relationship and that happens, guys, there's three ways you can handle this. Number one, you can set your boundaries immediately, and you're going to know right off the bat, because she's either going to give you grief about it, and at which point that's when you just turn around and run, or she's going to say, oh, okay, because maybe in her previous relationship things got dull and they both started doing that, right? So number one, set your boundaries. Okay. Number two, don't do it. Don't fall into the trap of, well, instead of complaining to her, instead of telling her that this bothers me, I'll just do it myself. That's not a solution, because you would be surprised the difference in how men and women view this thing. Okay. If a man and a woman are speaking and the man picks up his phone, the woman will feel set aside. She will feel like, oh, I guess I'm just not good enough. I'm not interesting enough. But at the same time, she will do that consciously to a man when they're in the middle of speaking. And it will be a different, complete feeling for her. She will have no problem saying, well, this is not interesting enough. This is not holding my interest. So I'm going to grab my phone. So do not engage with it if it's something that you do not want to become the norm in your relationship. That's certain. Now, if it happens and you say something and she's not happy about it and she says it's no big deal, I'm just picking up my phone for 20 or 30 seconds. Depends on how bad you want the relationship. Now, what you can do is you can set a couple of boundaries. You can say, okay, look, if we're in the middle of a conversation, you're going to pick up your phone. Say something like, I'm just picking this up to check my email. I'll be back with you in a minute. And then within a minute or two, within a reasonable time, if she consistently comes back to the conversation, that might be a way to bridge that gap. Because for a lot of people, women especially, it's already become a habit. They don't even realize that in the middle of a conversation, they're just going to, you see what I'm, they're not consciously aware of it. It's become a habit. So if you're a man and you're telling your woman, I don't like this, there's a significant chance you're the first guy who said something. And that is something that they will say. Well, my ex didn't bother my ex. Nobody else has bothered me. I sit with my friends all the time. Well, that was them. And this is you. And this is a different relationship. And they're going to be different boundaries. Do not accept somebody else's mistakes. If somebody else was with her and allowed her to just pick up the phone whenever she wanted and just completely ignore him when they were in the middle of a conversation and he was, in quotes, okay with it, it's more than likely he was just afraid to say anything. All right. And the difference is you're going to be willing to set a boundary. So you have to speak up for yourself. Now, the flip side is if you're already in a relationship and it's already a habit, then it's going to be a little bit of a different thing. Now, if it's become a habit for both of you, you can't say anything to her until you stop the habit as it is. Okay. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a transition there. Let's say that you're both used to sitting at night and you talk a little bit and you look at your phone. You talk a little bit, look at your phone. But you would like the conversations to go further. You would like to have them go a little bit more in depth. You'd like some response to what you're saying. Because in general, what happens if she talks, you say, uh-huh. She talks, you respond. And then if you bring anything to the table, a lot of times she'll just fluff it off and look at her phone. So what you can't do is, it's weird because you have to do it without telling her, but you can't do it too long without telling her. And what I mean is you're both sitting there having a conversation and start practicing that when she picks up her phone, you don't. Okay. Start practicing that. But don't, since you haven't told her yet, that doesn't mean you can sit there and brood about it and be like, oh, she won't get off her phone. I see she's not noticing that I'm getting off my phone. You need to break the habit first to the point that it becomes natural for you to not grab your phone. Okay. And then once that's become natural for you, then you can come to her and say, look, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but this is what I've been doing. This is what I would like to see happen. I've already broken my habit, so I know it's not going to happen on my end. I'd like it if you could curb your habit. You don't even have to say break your habit because that's going to add in a level of accountability that sometimes can be the feminine kryptonite. So you kind of wanted to say if you could cut it down a little bit because I'd like for our conversations to go in a different direction. That's one way if you're already in a relationship that you might be able to have success. If you're in a relationship and you bring this up and she basically gives you tough, okay, that's a difficult situation to get out of. What I would recommend in that point is walking away. So if you're in the middle of a conversation and you've expressed to her, I don't want us picking up our phones while we're talking, okay? If you've expressed that and she says, well, too bad, so sad, this is the way it is, then what you need to do is when you're having a discussion with her and she picks up her phone, you just get up and walk away. Conversation's over. And go do whatever, okay? I'm not saying go get in the car and go fishing and not come home for 3 hours. Go do whatever. You need to shave, right? You need to shave this, right? You need to put some clothes away. Something that you've been meaning to do only takes 5-10 minutes. Okay. Go do that. And then just walk back into the room and see. Does she notice you walk back into the room? Does she say, okay, I'm done with my phone now? C, because what that will start to do is now you've put the ball into her court, because instead of you sitting there brooding and feeling bad, one of two things is going to happen. It's going to tell you a lot about your relationship. Number one, she's not even going to notice that you walk away. Okay. And that's going to tell you something. And that's a completely different subject that you have to deal with. But she might start to notice when she's done with her phone, hey, he's not, where'd you go? You see what I'm saying? If that happens, then you can use that as a lead into, well, I told you, I don't want us on our phones. You said tough. So when you get on your phone, I'm going to go walk away and do something productive rather than just sit here like a little boy and wait for you to want to give me attention. I'm not going to do that. Now, that is not a guarantee of a positive movement, but it will move the needle one way or another, and it will tell you where you stand in your relationship. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, share the video, and I appreciate all the support. I'm going to try to start pumping out these videos more often. I had to stop for hockey and football and everything like that, but now it seems like I'm being a better groove work-wise. So appreciate it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.